People say that you should ride with inner tubes if you just like the set it and forget it nature and if you don't want to deal with the whole headache of setting up tubeless tires, but I'm somebody that doesn't exactly enjoy bike maintenance. It's just something that I feel like I have to do because a crunchy drivetrain will drive me nuts and I just like to take care of my things. But overall, I find it like boring to mildly pleasant, kind of like vacuuming. Like, it's not something I like to do, but I still choose to ride tubeless because for me it is the lowest maintenance thing. And I am making this video in a response to GCN Tech's video about why one of those guys stopped riding tubeless exclusively and all of the problems that he's dealt with it, and to show you that once you get good at setting up tubeless, it's not that big of a deal to set up, and it's not that big of a mess if you know what you're doing. So all of my bikes are running tubeless. These are my Velocity coils that I use on my Wabi Thunder. They are currently set up with some Gravel King SK Pluses. And Wabi was nice enough to send me the Gravel King trifecta. So right now I am going to be putting on the Gravel King SS's. I'm not like sponsored by Panaracer. It would be sick if I was. I just really like their stuff. And I also have the Gravel King, which is their slick version for super speedy boys. But I'm gonna go with the middle ground SS and see how I like it. As weird as it is, I'm even set up for tubeless on my level NJS because there are advantages to tubeless that I really like compared to tubes. So tubeless tires, because there is no tube in it, you can run the pressures a lot lower without having any fear of pinch flatting. I like it on this bike because it can only fit a 25, maybe a 26C tire in the front. So the lower the pressure, the more comfortable it'll be. And then on the back is a 28C. Apparently I'm just like a tubeless god because I don't really have problems with setting up tubeless at all. I find it pretty easy. Probably just as easy as setting up a tire with a tube. And I'll show you my process. Tubeless gets a bad rap for like spilling sealant everywhere and exploding tires where you have like sealant on your ceiling fan. But I find that it's easiest if you just set up properly. So I have a little mat to have any of the spills. And then I also have some isopropyl alcohol on hand to clean up any little bit of droplets. But nothing is going to be exploding here. It's going to be really straightforward. So first I'm going to deflate the tire. And then just like on a tube tire, I'm going to take off one side of the tire. And I haven't really had any problems installing tubeless tires unless it was a tire I was setting up as tubeless that wasn't specifically meant to be tubeless compatible, or that the rim was not specifically meant to be tubeless compatible. But I found that a lot of tubeless setup, whether it's successful or not, depends on the rim tape. So this rim tape was set up by Wabi, so I didn't do this one, but they did a really good job and it sets up every time. And something that I have done that has worked pretty well is just doubling up on rim tape. And if you're like super performance oriented, you're probably not going to want to do that. But I am more so riding tubeless for the convenience of it, where I don't have to deal with flat tires pretty much ever. Ever since I started riding tubeless, the only time I got a flat tire was because of my fault, where there was not enough sealant in the tire. And also the tire was not specifically made to be like tubeless compatible. But anyway, as you can see here, so there's all your good tubeless juice stuck inside. I just lean it up against something while still having it on the mat. And then, guys, is this like, let me know if this is hella boring, because to me this is hella boring. But every time I make a video that I think is boring, it tends to do pretty well. So I just suck it up with a little squeeze bottle like that, siphon it all up, and then put it in another container for storage, and repeat until that is done. Just as a challenge for myself, I'm going to try to do this in under an hour. I started at 5:35, so let's see if I can be done by 6:30. Just to show you how pretty straightforward it is. Now that I siphoned out most of the forbidden Thai milk tea, take off the tire and clean it out. So I'm just keeping everything on the mat so it doesn't spill sealant on my rug. But I don't really care that there's a bunch of sealant on the rim because I'm just gonna put another tire on there anyway. But I will go out and clean the tire so that it doesn't get all disgusting when it's in storage. I just use a shop towel and some isopropyl alcohol to dissolve the sealant, and I don't try to be like super anal about it because I don't care about like the weight increasing on my tires because they're just gonna wear out anyway and I'm not competing. It's just, you know, more hassle than it's worth to try to be super meticulous about it. Clean enough for me, and put trash in trash. The fresh peel. Oh, heck yeah, dude. Now I'm just giving the tire some shape to put it over the rim. It's kind of looking like Ouroboros eating its own tail right now, but that's all right. And then like with any other tire, I line up the valve with the label. It's all right if it's not perfectly on straight right now. I will align it later. And I feel like maybe I'm so good at tubeless because I started learning on Panaracer tires, which are supposedly like kind of hard to install for tubeless, but after I got it down, I haven't really had any issues with any other tire setting up as tubeless, even ones that are not supposed to be tubeless. So tubeless tires, their bead can be a little more wiggly, so I try not to force anything too much because of how wiggly it is. It might get off of the rim. One of the nice things about tubeless tires when you're installing them is that there's no fear of pinching a tube, so I just jam it with a tire lever to get it on there. But usually the tire lever helps with the wiggliness. There you go. Now we got a complete half of a tire on the rim. This is the point where I like to align the label with the valve more evenly. That is centered enough for me, if you want to check my homework. And this is the point where there's like some disagreement on how to best install a tubeless tire, and where people can run into a lot of mess. So some people will say like, oh, install the tire on except at the bottom so you could put in the sealant. But I like to just put on the rest of the bead of the tire completely. And again, I just start opposite of the valve and just try to mostly use my palms to get like a lot of the tire on there. With tube tires, a lot of times your thumbs are better, but because it's so wiggly, you want to grab hold of a lot of the bead so that it doesn't flop off and that you can get enough tension onto both sides of the bead. As you can see, like I'm just going around with both of my hands until it gets to the point where there's tension. And then I take the tire lever, just pop it on, because I don't have to be afraid of getting a pinch, because there's nothing to pinch. Like, I actually legitimately find this easier than a tubed tire, because on a tube tire you always have to worry about pinching your tube. Not the case with this. So now that the tire is completely on the rim, I will put in the sealant. And some people say like, oh, you should test fit it by blowing air to it and that'll seat it on the bead. But I've done this enough that I'm pretty confident that it will just seat with the sealant, and also the sealant does help it seat onto the bead when you do use your air compressor to blast it in. And right now I'm putting the forbidden Thai milk tea into the squirt bottle so I could get it in there. And sometimes there's going to be a little bit of mess, but this is not unmanageable. Just wipe it away. I like to put the sealant through the valve stem because it's cleaner than trying to flop on the rest of the tire with a bunch of sealant at the bottom. And also it just works. So why not do this? Hold on, this requires 2 hands. There you go. And I like to put it at an angle so I don't spill anything without squeezing the bottle. Line it up. And then it drinks the entire bottle of sealant. Make sure that the tire is seated inside the rim so that when the air blasts through, the air can then expand the tire outward so it can seat into the rim. Just giving it a little squeeze all around, and I will know that I've squeezed sufficiently after I spin it around and I see that there's no sealant leaking out of the sides, or just a very little amount of sealant leaking out of the sides. I have the edge of the tire over my mat, so that is easy to clean, so that I don't make any mess I don't need to make. So right now the sealant is getting towards the bottom and hopefully sealing up the edge of the tire and the rim. To the other side. Just go around a couple times slowly. And I'm not seeing any sealant leaking out, so that means I did seat the tire nice and well. I am pretty confident that will seat. So now I'm going to put this on here because I don't want any side forces unseating the tire. So I'm going to take my quote-unquote air compressor, which is a $60 air shot where you just pump it up with a floor pump. It's basically a manual air compressor. And I thread it directly into the big mouth of the valve stem. Clean off my finger. So this is kind of like the scary part where you might have some sealant leak out of the side. But because I'm pretty sure I did my homework right, there's only going to be like a little bit. It's not going to like explode all over me. A lot of people suggest, oh, wear an apron or wear clothes you don't care about. But I find that the fear of death, of ruining some of my clothes, makes me be better throughout the entire process of installing the tubeless tire, that I don't need to wear the apron. So here's what I'll do. Take it off, I turn it sideways. I'm gonna keep it over the mat here, if you can see. I'm going to turn it sideways to let gravity do its thing and help seal the side of the tire. But you just release it and hope for the best. And that's what you want to hear. All that pinging is it seating onto the side. As you can see, I did my homework, and there is very little sealant. Very, very little sealant leaking out of the side. And then you need to do a little bit of a magic trick here. So I hold it a little bit off axis from like 12 o'clock. So I don't like spew sealant all over everywhere. The magic trick here is to take this off and then cap it with your thumb so it still has the air. And then take the valve core and cap it inside the valve stem. If you don't get it, it's okay. And like that, you just do a quick switcheroo. And then just tighten the rest of the valve core and then pump it up with the track pump. And it will hold air because there is still air inside here. And whenever I am pumping up tubeless tires or deflating them, I like to have it off of the 12 o'clock or the 6 o'clock so that there's less sealant that gets clogged inside the valve. Can you see me? I'll just be pumping this up, don't mind me. So, a lot of people complain about tubeless tires, because they say, oh, you have to deflate it when you get on a flight, but I travel with my tubeless tires all the time, and it's like, yes, the airline technically wants you to deflate it all the way, but I just deflate like 5 psi, and when they ask me, hey, did you deflate your tires? I tell them yes. And when I get to my destination, it is still all together. There was no explosions, no leaks, nothing. It is perfectly good to go. I just top it up back to my ideal air pressure, which for 45 Cs, I think might be 35 psi. And good to go. And then lastly, I will spin around the sealant, make sure that all the sidewalls, the bead is getting lots of love so it doesn't explode on me. So, one tubeless tire took me 25 minutes. I'll do the other off camera, but it's just going to be more of the same. Swapping both tubeless wheels took me about an hour and 10 minutes. Yeah, tubeless can be a bit of a pain to set up if you're still learning, but once you figure it out, at least in my experience, I've found that it's pretty straightforward, even with Hannah Racer tires, which are known to be kind of finicky to put on. Still only took me about an hour. Would have probably taken me 45 minutes if I wasn't recording a video. But I've just been a tubeless convert because you can run lower pressures without fear of getting a pinch flat, which is really nice if you are riding off-road or if you have a skinny tire bike that you want to be more comfortable. I have never gotten a flat while out on the road that could not be plugged up by the sealant, whereas before when I was riding tubes, even with something like Gator skins, which were my go-to tire when I was riding tubes, I would still get a flat about once every 2 months, whereas tubeless I've just never flatted out on the road. And for me, it doesn't even take up that much more time. It takes maybe 10, 15, 20 minutes longer to set up tubeless compared to changing out a tubed tire. So it's just a win-win-win for me. I'm really loving tubeless. On top of that, I only have 3 wheel sets. Well, 2 right now. I will get a 3rd tubeless wheel set, which I'm able to ride all of them frequently enough that it's not a problem about like sealant sticking. For me, this is just like the lowest maintenance tire possible. If you have problems with tubeless, a lot of the times it has to do with the rim tape. So really check your rim tape, double up or even triple up your rim tape if you need, if you just want to do it for convenience. Or have your local bike shop do it, and that will make it a whole lot easier. I've been using the same rim tape for like 2 years and I've had 0 issues with it. So if you just have a pro do it, that could solve your tubeless woes and get your tire seated on your rim. And oh, another thing about tubeless I forgot to mention is that according to like bicyclerollingresistance.com, the same tire run tubeless is faster and has less rolling resistance than the same tire with a tube in it. So that's pretty cool if you care about that. But yeah, the Slavic children are playing in the pool, so I will go inside and let them do their thing. If you couldn't tell, this video is sponsored by Wabi Cycles. This is my Wabi Thunder, and this fits, that is a 45C tire in there. It could probably fit a 55C tire if you really wanted to. Maybe that is a thing I will do at some point. But yeah, big tires fit fine. They are tubeless compatible with the Velocities, and Wabi is also coming out with their own tubeless tire, or their own tubeless rim, so that you can run tubeless on these things right out of the box. If you want a sick bike like this, that is headache-free, unlike my NJS bike, which you can see those chronicles over here, check out wabicycles.com.